Hello and welcome to Buck's Bounty with my Halloween Skull Cup. I just thought it was perfect for this episode. We are alongside Alex Presley, which I'm really excited about. We are going to do a lot of fun stuff, but we have to start with Don Kelly. And I want to read the quote from Bob Nutting to start this off. Donnie took over the team at a true low point. Since then, we've seen meaningful progress, not just in the clubhouse culture, but on the field. His connection to the community and the passion for the franchise make him more than just a manager. He's a Pittsburgher. I'm going to say Yinzer. He is part of our community. He's the right fit at the right time and is the right person to lead us forward. Presley, agreed or disagreed?
I agree. I actually agree with everything Bob said. But I will say this: the narrative about Don Kelly, as cool as it is that he's a Pittsburgher and a Yinzer, that has no bearing on him getting this job. Like, that's done. We kind of were thinking that when he got the interim tag this year, but he's absolutely earned this job, the full manager job this year, by the way he's handled this team. And I think the best thing Bob said, I think, was the culture. I think we could feel how the culture really shifted whenever he took over, and we saw him going out there getting tossed, taking up for his guys and earning some respect from his players, that he would stick up for them, and they responded and played hard all year, no matter what the record was. So I was hoping for this, and it happened.
So, first off, how are you? I wanted to kind of drop the Don Kelly thing because we've been away for a little bit. We dropped a really cool episode last week with our first base coach, Tyreek Brock. But Press, how's life? How are you doing? And how's the family?
Life's good. I have a kindergartner, so we're doing that full force. But
She's my
yeah,
dog.
everything's good. Nothing crazy. Yeah, Michael is my daughter's uh, the godfather, if you will, the
Ooh,
godparents,
I
Michael and
like that.
Jacqueline. But yeah, everything's good. No complaints. So just going.
And real quick, what was one of Micah's favorite moments from the season? I want you to share this with the fans. I think they'll appreciate it.
Um, she loved whenever you dropped down in your chair on the post game. You almost disappeared behind the desk. My wife
Yeah.
said she probably watched it a solid 10 times and laughed just as hard the 10th time as the first time. So yeah, she gets a kick out of
Oh,
you for sure.
yeah. I mean, we're both just children. Now let's revert back to Donnie and his childhood, right? And I know you said the Yinzer thing doesn't matter. I think we're in a moment where the Yinzer thing matters a lot. I'm going to explain why. Not because of what you were saying, because it doesn't matter as a manager. It matters
Right.
because of his roots. So Donnie's from Butler. He went to Mount Lebanon. Then he went to Point Park University, a Division II school. Played ball there, and kind of is that perfect picture of what Pittsburgh is, right? The guy that fought and clawed to get to the big leagues. And then he wasn't the guy that just had a stapled position. No, that would be the easy way, right? He's the guy that played everywhere. And I mean everywhere, even caught some games and hated it. I'll never forget the story when he told me in spring training it took a ball off the hand, was absolutely fired up, launched the ball into the trees and walked off because he was so frustrated. But the competitiveness and the fire he has in him is deep rooted in Pittsburgh. One of the people he looks up to, obviously, he had Gene Lamont right by his side, but Gene Lamont's boss, right? His manager when he was with the Pirates, when he was in Detroit, Leland. And I feel like he took a lot of who Leland was and showed some of that. But I felt like this was an opportunity to show the community, hey, we are backing our own. And I think that's
Sure.
something we've lost, Press. When we first got
Agreed.
here and we went to spring training, who was there? Right? The 71, the 79 team. Maz is there. Teak is there. I mean, I'll never forget meeting these guys and not knowing who they are, right? Because I'm from
Right.
Tennessee. I watched the Braves. I didn't watch the Pirates. But Donnie brings that element back. He brings the past to the future. And I think that's really important because we need to remember we are family. We are champions, is the city's call, right? The city of
Right.
champions. And I think Donnie's roots, and I'm going to say that a lot throughout this podcast, matter because we're at a time to Bob's point, and I'm not one to read many quotes from Bob Nutting or the front office or anybody else to try to create my own lines, my own statements, but he nailed that. We're in a pivotal time to where he's the perfect fit because we needed a Yinzer and we need him now. And Press, I feel like now is an opportunity to build upon what the Pirates are. Gritty, right? Just absolutely persistent, accountable. Ownership is a big word I think Donnie's going to use a lot. Own who you are and own the moment. And Press, I just want to get your full take on that reality of the roots because we were a part of a really cool time in Pittsburgh Pirate baseball. And I don't think, at least for me, I've reflected on it enough. But when I have, after I got done playing, I look back and I'm like, this couldn't just be good. This could be great. Because if we bring
Right.
a postseason game here, we've seen what we're capable of, but we're still just talking about the playoffs. We're not talking about the World Series. I want a ring in the World Series. I don't want to be a playoff team. We've done that, right? Now it's
Right.
been almost a decade. Let's get back and let's own it. And I want to hear your entire kind of thought. That's my monologue to start this baby off in the sense of Donnie and the roots.
Okay, so we know you and I have both since made Pittsburgh our permanent home. So we are here all the time. We know exactly what this city is all about. It's one thing to play here and then to feel it from that aspect, but it's another thing to be around the people of Pittsburgh day in and day out. I mean, we have people randomly talking to us when we go to the grocery store or go, asking how the team's doing. Why don't you tell them to do this? I had a neighbor yell at me from like 2 houses down, like, what are we doing with the hitting?
We need a power bat.
I don't know. Yeah. I'm like, I don't know. We'll figure it out. But you're exactly right. I think from what I was saying was that he wasn't given the job just because he's from here.
Correct.
And him being from here is a huge deal. And having a guy that we think is the right guy on top of that. So I think that, as we've seen, there's a lot of pride in the city. And we've, like you said, seen what it can be like in a playoff type atmosphere. And man, it is crazy. I mean, it's like bringing a Steeler game to PNC Park. And I think as a city and a baseball city, it's a sleeping giant to be a real home field advantage for the Pirates once they do get back to the postseason, hopefully soon under Donnie. But he knows what this organization's all about. The ties back to Jim Leland, like you said. I got to know Leland being in Pittsburgh and being in Detroit. And Gene Lamont was my bench coach in Detroit. So a lot of those ties run deep between those two organizations. And Donnie, I think, is the perfect guy, the type of player he was. He wasn't a guy that was given anything. He had to earn it, much like you and I did as players. We kind of understand, the small opportunities you get, and they're not going to be the most opportunistic times to go in games. You still have to get it done. And he did a lot of that, and he made his career out of that. And I think the players have kind of fed off that, and he understands what these players are going through when they're put in these situations. So it gives him a better understanding of, how to put a guy in at a certain time and if that's going to make sense or whatever. But I think it's a great thing that he can connect on a deeper level with Pittsburgh and kind of, like you said, that family aspect is something that we've lost. And I think it's very important to get a more, intimate relationship with the team and players, which we really haven't seen lately.
Yeah, and something I want to bring back is Gene Lamont. Very interesting hire, right? And I want to explain to fans my thought on that and get your take. Is obviously, if he could have had Jim Leland, that would have been great. If I'm Jim Leland, and I'm sure he said this, Donnie, no, it's your time. You can't have me because then I'm the spotlight. I just got put in the Hall of Fame. I think he had a perspective that was absolutely genius. And then maybe he made the suggestion that, hey, get Lamont. He'll help you become a big league manager. And I think that's the entire reason Gene Lamont was hired. I don't think it was X's and O's. I don't think it was moves. I think it was to tell Donnie what he saw on a daily basis via Donnie. That's it.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, if you know Donnie at all, he literally was wearing so many hats. Most teams have a field coordinator. He was playing that role. He was the infield coach. He was the bench coach. He was helping making decisions. He was sitting in all the meetings. Every time I was ever there, he was in Shelton's office with Sherrington, just listening. And I think he's just been buying that time and learning and growing and doing all these things for an opportunity for this. But the one thing you cannot do is put yourself in the situation where you are making all the decisions, and he picked somebody that really wasn't going to carry the weight of anything he was doing. So all the other coaches had to pick up kind of the pieces of what was left of what all Donnie did. And I don't think they realized how much he did. Just talking to them, he did a ton. So he got to see those guys and see how they manage that. And I think that's how maybe he started to kind of filter who he wanted, what type of staff he wanted, what type of roles he needed moving forward to help him. But I don't think he could have done that without Gene Lamont being the accountability and the ownership of what Pirate baseball is. Agreed, disagreed, and thoughts.
Well, Gene Lamont has years and years and years of baseball under his belt. Who better than him to come and just be around, like you said, if nothing else, be around and give his perspective on what's happening, maybe his opinions on some of the staff members as he watches them go through their
Especially at
daily
the end of the year, right?
routines. But right, exactly, because at the end of the year, I mean, you got to imagine, Donnie's posturing for that job, so everybody's trying out, including Donnie, toward the end of the year, and Gene can give maybe some insight that Donnie's not seeing, as Donnie's really focused on managing the team and making those decisions. But as for Donnie, as a guy you said wore so many hats, he knows how to do a lot of jobs, which is a great thing that he's done a lot of things already to make him, now that you're the boss, it's good to be the boss and be able to step in and do somebody's job. It's like, well, if I'm managing the restaurant and somebody needs me to clean the bathroom, I got to go clean it. If nobody's there to do it, I got to know how to do
Yeah, you
everything.
never
Right.
want to
So,
forget. Exactly.
right. So I think that's a really good aspect of it. And I think maybe give Donnie the ability to just kind of realize what kind of coach he wants and what kind of coach he should be looking for, and kind of go back in that Rolodex of people that I know that throughout my career and through the different organizations that I've worked in, who could be those candidates moving forward to 2026.
Yeah, and I think it started with his identity first. And he used the word grit, patience, and a vision for Pirates baseball in his post. And I think that's right. You can tell he's very passionate about what he wants to do. He's going to leave it all out there. But Donnie's well regarded in the game. Donnie could have left years ago. He's here. He wants this, and his family lives here. And I'm gonna say it one more time before we move, further into this conversation. Is I had no like beef with Derek Shelton. I had nothing that I could say bad against Derek Shelton, except he didn't win here. The reality of it is, though, he never lived here. He stayed in a hotel. He stayed in an apartment. And most managers and most coaches want to feel rooted, right? And I think there's
Right.
power in that. And I think there's power in that when it comes to players as well. Because once you've like put roots down, your kids are going to school, right? You have a community outside of just baseball. There's something that means more. Like you were saying, me and you moved here. When I moved here, this became home, right? This became my first home in my adult life where I was here all the time. And I've been involved in so many things. I got to meet so many great people, as have you. And the reality of it is, it builds a deeper connection. And I
It
think that's
does.
where Donnie has his identity rooted in being a Pirate, in being a Pittsburgher. And I don't think we can take that for granted. And I don't think we can overlook that, because that's what's going to shape this entire thing for me, because it's something most guys have to search for when they get here. I remember talking to
Right.
Hurdle about that. He had to embrace the city and understand the city, understand the culture, understand the past. Donnie knows it all. It's ingrained in him. And I think that's what the difference is moving forward. And what we saw as soon as he took that leadership role, which really just a servant leadership role for him, that we saw a shift magically fast.
Yeah, and I think Pittsburgh's such a unique place that if you don't spend time here getting to know Pittsburgh and the people that live here, it's a hard place to understand, and it's a hard place to realize just the passion and just how much they want it for the Pirates to be good again. And I think Donnie understands that. I think that's going to be a key to success and how he can kind of make his mark on this organization.
He got him, and he's done it again.
Welcome to Unobstructed Views.
We're at BP. We're going to get an inside look.
Once you start loving each other, you start fighting for each other.
Welcome to Coach's Corner. And he'll admire it, so will we.
Is that too much to ask for?
Oh, baby.
I want to talk about how the team started, right? We're going to look at the opening day roster and then the end of the year, final game, lineup, roster, and just think about all the shifts, right? And then talk about, what we liked, what we didn't like, and then circle back to the team identity moving forward. Because I really want to paint the picture for the fans that when we came into the season, it was win. No excuses, we're winning, right? But there were still so many question marks, right? Indy Rodriguez is on the opening day roster, doesn't play first base all spring, and then boom, first base, day one in Miami, right? And I believe, and I think you do too, there's consequences to that, right? He's going in 2 years ago, they tell him, you're a catcher, only a catcher. That's it, right? Numbers fall off the charts. He has to learn how to hit with no legs. He has to learn how to deal with the pitching staff, and he goes all the way in because that's his personality. We saw it with Henry Davis. We've seen it with multiple guys where these guys are buying completely in. Right, wrong, or indifferent, they made a decision. They have to live with it. But there were so many question marks at the beginning of the season that it was like, okay, what are we trying to do, right? Like Bubba got sent down early. We had Harrington make a start after he got sent to Indianapolis a week later, didn't even throw a bullpen, and this whole season got shredded, right? So let's look at that opening day lineup to that season finale lineup. And you just kind of paint the picture, go where you want to go with this, and just talk about how it could be so much different moving forward is where I'm going with all this because of that Pittsburgh route, that grit, that perseverance, that fight that we should have moving forward that we saw later in the season.
Yeah, there's so much here, right? I mean, a team that has aspirations to win in the beginning, and once you're out of it, it's kind of, this is the natural progression. There's going to be turnover at the deadline. There's going to be guys coming in and playing. It was good. We got to see Devaney, Flores. We saw Evan Sisk pitch what felt like every single day. We saw some of the
every day Evan, baby.
Things some of the things they got from those trades, which was cool to see them find out what they had from those guys. Nick York was good to see him get a look as he's been, had a good career in AAA with a good amount of at bats. It was good to see him get another look in Pittsburgh. But we have the guys. Ke'Bryan Hayes gone, Indy hurt. We have Joey Bart played well during the end of the year, so I really feel optimistic about him moving forward. But we had IKF at shortstop. You want to talk about guys that were playing positions that weren't playing primary positions that weren't their primary position. He was one of them. He did a good job, but he was obviously limited physically at shortstop as well. So you're kind of trying to piece things together and hope that these guys can play at a level that maybe they've never played before, or a level that they're going to have to up that level, and 4 or 5 different guys, right? So you're asking a lot to happen in 1 year. You have Cruz, who is very young and center as far as experience, and you had Reynolds moving to right. So and we look at the rotation, which was kind of crazy. This was actually I like this the most. This interests me the most, the way they handled the young pitchers. We saw Heaney get traded. We saw Falter. Oh, sorry, Heaney stayed. My bad. Falter got traded. I was a little surprised that he was the one that went. We thought Heaney was going to get traded, but he kind of struggled leading up to the deadline. But yeah, Ashcraft emerged, came in the bullpen, looked dominant. I was really impressed with him this year. Then moved back to the starting role. Majinski did the opposite, started as a starter, and then went into the bullpen and was unbelievable. He was awesome. Oviedo coming back from injury is what did about as well as we could have hoped for him to do and stay healthy at the same time. Mike Burrows was a revelation this year. We knew he could be good, and he improved throughout the year. So the staff is pretty much set up I mean, they got a pretty solid group of pitchers moving forward. It's the position players that there's a lot of question marks. Even at this point in October, there's still a lot that can be done. And so it's hard to speculate, is Kutch coming back? I have no idea. You have more insight on that potentially than I do, or maybe we both don't. I have no idea.
My question is, why wouldn't he? Why wouldn't he? And this will lead into kind of the thought of a team identity, right? So you talked about IKF, right? Playing, a position that he was vocal, like, hey, I want to play multiple positions. I feel more comfortable doing that. And on a winning team, right now he's in the playoffs. What's he doing? He's a bench guy, and he's playing multiple positions. He's playing just about every day, because now with the American League type format, right, we have a DH. You're not moving guys in and out, but you can. I'll never forget, and you played with him too, James McDonald. He was about 5'6", 112 pounds, maybe one of the best gloves in all of baseball. He got 20 years in the big leagues and probably 300 at-bats because he played every game, right? He played every game in the 8th, 9th inning, but that was his identity. That's what you can do with this American League setup, right, with the DH. And that's kind of what I'm looking for moving forward. So I want to ask you, why wouldn't Kutch be on the team? Who could replace him? Yeah, if you want to say $5 million is too much, okay, that's fine. But $5 million is what he'll make in impressions and what he'll make in jersey sales.
Correct.
And if you're Donnie Kelly, it's my first sign.
Yeah, and if
we're
going to talk about staying on theme here with the roots and all that, then Kutch is your man, right? He's the face of this franchise for the past 20 years that he's played, and he's been pretty productive as well. Let's not act like he's not playing well. He's had, granted, he's only DHing, which kind of limits some things, especially when you have
which he's been very vocal about wanting to play in the outfield more, right? So that is an option, and I think too, like, everybody looks at him, and I know I kind of interrupted you, but like, everybody looks at him as a sense of like, he's an everyday bat. Okay, well, what if you look at him as a quality bat? Not an everyday bat, not a true DH, but a guy that could get 300 bats, but he could get 600 if it goes right. But in worst case scenario, right, you set him up to where he gets his days off. You set him up this year, which last year was a little bit different because he got some really bad at bats. The entire roster didn't hit the way you wanted to, but you can't take away that the automated ball strike system, the challenge system, is going to make this guy probably closer to an 800 OPS than ever before, because without even trying, because he's going to have to, he's going to be able to pull guys in the zone. He's had some of the worst luck in all of baseball in the last 3 or 4 years when it comes to balls called strikes, because he takes that borderline pitch as well as anybody on the planet. And he still has one of the best chase rates in baseball. He has one of the best eyes in baseball. And you're talking about a guy that could walk 100 times. Now, could we say he needs to improve on his base running? Absolutely. Can we say if he could play a little bit of outfield, that would really help? Absolutely. Well, he lost weight. He moves just fine. And you can see what happened in Seattle, right? With Naylor. The dude stole 30 bases. He's the bottom tier of speed. So you're talking about, you can make improvements with guys that want to win and want to finish a winner like Kutch. And I feel like the fans forget that. They're so quick to Band-Aid things and so quick to say, ooh, we need a better player. Well, name a player that's come in here and gotten better, right? And I'm not saying it won't happen with Donnie Kelly. I'm not saying it won't happen move forward. But we have to prove to free agent offensive guys that they can come in, get an opportunity like Russell Martin did, right? He came into an absolute slam dunk. Hey, you're going to play every day. You have a backup that really cares about the pitching staff. He'll compliment you. And that was me, right? And we need a right-handed bat in the lineup every day. So if you want to play, you're in there, right? So he came to a perfect thing, 2-year deal, see you later. We knew he was going to leave. And that's kind of what Pittsburgh's been when they've gotten those free agents. And I think Kutch is the bridge, and I think it's a perfect way to go into it, a bridge to the future of what's next. But if you don't treat him well, then what would anybody expect being a free agent or somebody that's here forever, right? They're going to be like, if that's not treated well, what would be, right?
Right. And I talk to people around here. They're like, oh, we have to get so-and-so in free agency. And one of my first responses is, tell me why they should come here over other places. And it's not, and I love the Pirates. I would, if they wanted to sign me today, I would sign. Bob, I'm talking to you. I'm kidding. But but I mean, you have to, they're watching, everybody's watching. They see how the organization treats other guys that have been signed. You look at, how Tommy Pham got to finish the season out, how, he's probably elongated his career at least another year, I would imagine. He played really well. I mean, I don't know if that's a conversation that the Pirates are willing to have or not. I have no idea, or Tommy's willing to have, but players are watching. They know how guys are treated. The players talk. This nothing's a secret. But yeah, like you said, if you're not gonna treat your franchise guy for the past almost quarter century well, then how would you expect to be treated as a guy that has no ties to the organization? Is what it comes down to. So I think it's a very interesting aspect. I think Kutch brings a lot to the table. I mean, obviously, I think we've seen him be more vocal later in his career, especially the past couple of years, which has been cool to watch. Instead of just being the example guy, he's always been the example guy, but to see him get a little more vocal has been cool to watch. But also doing it at the plate as well. I didn't really think about the automated strike zone, how that would help him out, but he takes a lot of pitches, I mean, that are an inch or two off, and sometimes it doesn't go his way. But yeah, a lot there, but like to see him back for sure.
No doubt. So I want to move on to team identity, right? So team identity is a collective sense of self and shared purpose that binds members of a team, influencing their commitment, I'm going to say, and their community, their behavior and performance by fostering group cohesion and a sense of belonging. What is this team's sense of belonging in regards to their values, their common goals, and their clear communication, that where they collaborate, we know what they're trying to do. And I think the perfect example for us is in the playoffs right now. The Milwaukee Brewers beating the crap out of the Cubs at Milwaukee, because it's at Milwaukee and nobody plays well at Milwaukee except Milwaukee, right? I don't know if they put cheese in everything or what happens there, but guys move worse. They don't pitch as well. I saw PCA try to catch a ball that was 700 feet out of the ballpark the other day. And it really does add that weird anxiety when you play there. And maybe it's because it was a horror show when we played their press, but like, that's what we have to be.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny you say that. Paranoia would set in whenever we were in Milwaukee, because we're like,
they used to say the Fister's haunted.
There's no way they don't have our
not haunted. It was the ballpark.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm scared of ghosts when I'm not at the field. I'm seeing ghosts when I'm at the field. I don't know what's going on, but
true. Yes.
But
true. But
yeah,
identity thing, right?
Yeah, definitely. They know who they are, and it's a thing. We watched them throughout the year, and they always had tough at bats. I'm like, well, I really like the Brewers. I don't know what they're going to look like in the playoffs, and man, they have looked the same. They've stayed on point with, and you can see it from this past series against the Cubs. You got Craig Counsell coming back to Milwaukee, which I think was awesome to watch, and just see him. I played. Counsell was my manager in Milwaukee, actually, but you can just see the stress he's going through in the dugout as things are just unraveling. But a team that always puts pressure on, a team that always grinds out at bats, and they pitch it well. Sound familiar to a team that we would like to see do the same thing, that could have a lot of the same traits as a Milwaukee Brewers team.
Yeah, and I think that leads me to start thinking about the coaching staff, right? We saw Oscar's contract not get picked up. We saw Mike Rebello's contract not get picked up. And we saw the assistant pitching coach in Strome, he retired. And I thought he would be the guy that would kind of step in. And I'm still thinking there's a slim chance he actually comes back as the head guy. I know the guys really, really liked him and respected him. So with that being said, like Press, this is an opportunity for Donnie to shape the leaders that are going to lead this group of players to where he wants to go, which is the playoffs and beyond. That identity has to be shaped in grit and fortitude and that Pittsburgh-y way. So, like, what do you see coming? What type of pitching coach? Like, do they go get the little guy from AAA that was your manager that wanted to hit everybody and was a little bit
Dean
of a
Traynor.
psychopath, like Dean Traynor. Yeah, like that's what I see, right? I see them going to get a balance of like hard-nosed and gritty dudes that, may get thrown out on their own, right? And then vice versa, they have one of the best bullpen guys on the planet, nicest guy in the world. So it's kind of a balance of what Pittsburgh is, right? The grit, the fortitude, the piratey type thing, but at the same time, the nice, I'll let you cut line because I'm a Pittsburgher and it's really the South and not the North.
I think, when you talk about Brent Strom, I think he's a guy that was with the Astros with Donnie in 2019 when Donnie was the first base coach there. So they shared some time in the playoffs. Strom was, I feel like I have a connection with every coach on the staff that coached me at one time or another.
We played for everybody.
Yeah. Strom was the pitching coach when I was in Houston. So we saw him do a lot of great things with a lot of guys, but this is Donnie's team now. So he has, and I know he took a lot of criticism when he fired Oscar, and it was pretty quick that move was made. It seemed like that was something that Donnie had made his mind up that he wanted to do if he was given the permanent gig. But you look at the numbers, the pitching numbers, and you say, why would you make this move, right? Why is this the first move? And it's because this is his team. He can shape this team and the staff however he wants. He doesn't have to keep anyone or inherit anyone from Derek Shelton's staff if he doesn't want to. If they don't fit his vision, it doesn't matter what the statistics bore out over the year. He wants guys, and I don't know him and Oscar's relationship or working relationship. I have no idea. I'm just throwing out a couple of generalities here on what you would do being a new manager, but he's not beholden to the former staff in any way. And he has every right to get rid of someone, regardless if that position group played well or pitched well or whatever. So I think, it's a pretty gutsy move on Don Kelly's part to do this, especially the first move that's made, because he knew he was going to take on criticism from this no matter what. And if for whatever reason the staff underwhelms next year, then he'll get kickback for this. That'll be the first thing people go to, and you have to be fine with that if that's the move you're going to make. But it's all about fit and about culture and how you want those coaches shaping your players and instilling attitude. And I remember whenever we were with the Pirates, it was, you guys, if they get too many hits, we're going to start moving some feet, meaning we're going to start brushing some people back off the plate, getting them uncomfortable. It was a real go get them. Like we're coming at you. We're going to be tougher than you approach. And I think that's something that Donnie's going to be looking for in his new pitching coach.
So I told you I had a pretty cool way of transitioning into this topic. And I want to throw this out for anybody that's chasing to be a coach or that is a player or a fan, that you have to remember that you are your brand. And one reason I feel like Oscar is where he is because nobody knew who Oscar was. Nobody knew what he did. Nobody really understood what he was doing behind the scenes. And why I say that is he was on camera 3 times in 6 years that I can remember off the top of my head. 3 times in 6 years. And 2 of them being this year. Right? And yep. I say that same thing with Rebello. Rebello is an incredibly smart baseball dude. But for some reason, over the last 6 years, until we had Tyreek Brock on and Belsky, our producer, could clarify this, he hasn't been asked to do anything like this. Mm-hmm. That's crazy. Because if you have a staff full of knowledge and you're trying to build something, you want that out everywhere. And if you're a brand or you're a coach or you're a player, you're trying to do something great, what do you want to do? You want to speak upon it. You want to throw it out in the ether and say, this is who I am, right? Because it's a continual job interview. So I think one problem with Oscar is I didn't know how he felt about anybody. I didn't know if he liked Paul Skeens or hated him. I didn't know if he liked Mitch Keller or hated him. I didn't know if they were trying to do something. And I'm an analyst. You're an analyst. That's not okay. That's no knock to Oscar. It may have been something that was internal that they said, you can't do this. I don't know, don't care. The reality of it is what I do care about is the players. And I think that's what Donnie cares about. And I think the reality of it is he wants guys that are going to protect the players. They're going to love the players. And the old regime, for some reason, put that on the back burner. too often. And that's no knock. Everybody has their own way. It's just the reality. And if you watched any Pirates baseball, that's how it was. It was, let's just not talk about it. It's not really there, right? Type thing. Instead of let's talk about it. It is there. And we can move past it together as a community, as a collective, because that's what we can do as a Pittsburgh town. They move in flow with us. And I use the example of the blackout game in 13. Watching them go across the Clemente Bridge and it looked like a sea urchin is exactly how it flows in this city. It just kind of goes and it'll flow with you. But if you create accountability and you're out front, they'll be the same for you and they'll love you for it. And I think that's what Donnie has seen and what he said to say, hey, these guys did great. And I respect them. Rebello is probably going to be a bench coach or a manager somewhere in the big leagues at some point. Oscar's going to land on his feet. There's going to be a lot of people wanting to know what he knows because he's a good X and O guy. He's a good developer when it comes to the bullpen setting. But when it came to being out in front and having that personality to match Donnie, to give Donnie a break, neither one of those guys were out in front. I think Rebello could have. I don't know about Oscar. And that's what the reality of it is, where I think it's going. You're going to have a Tyrek Brock who can speak upon, hey, we're not running because of this. And it's on me. It's my job to lead these men to be the best base runners on the planet. And that's something I'm going to go back to Milwaukee with because I really respect Pat Murphy. I've known him since I was a young puppy. He's completely changed his thought process and used all the bad of his career and all the good of his career to mold who he is now. And he lets his coaches coach. And I think that's what we're seeing is instead of having groupthink pour onto the players, I think we're having a collective group of players and coaches come together, fight for one cause, going back to that identity press. It's all about that identity of the standards and what they're trying to do with Donnie. I hate Donnie ball, and he does too, I'm sure, of Pittsburgh baseball, right?
Right.
It's Pittsburgh, cutthroat. We're Pirates. This is even called Buck's Bounty. We're going to take our bounty, and we're going to move forward.
Yeah, and you look at a guy like mentioned Pat Murphy, how he's been around baseball for a while, coached in college, then was the bench coach in Milwaukee for a minute there, right? And then took over, much as Donnie's doing here, and he has put his own stamp on the Milwaukee Brewers, even though some of the staff members are the same from Council's regime. But he's definitely been able to find out what he wants, what the players there respond to, and what can make them the best overall team for the players that they have. You know, what the players the Pirates have may respond differently to something that the players on another team respond to. So you have to know your guys. I think it's cool that Donnie's been here long enough that he's seen when the Mitch Kellers were coming up, Brian Reynolds was coming up. He knows those guys from when they first came up, and he also has the newer, younger guys have come up while he is here as well. So there's nobody, just about nobody here that he doesn't know through different stages of their careers and what makes them tick and what kind of staff would make them tick as well.
No one destroys a baseball like Oneil Cruz.
That is the hardest hit ball in known Major League history.
Pitchers should consider themselves warned.
And it is gone! There's a Cruz missile!
Log in with your cable provider and stream the Pirates all season long on SNP 360.
I want to circle back to kind of round this all out. Press, this past year, biggest surprise, biggest disappointment on the season, and maybe you can think of a free agent or two, or you don't even have to go that way. You could just pick, where do you see the Buccos doubling down? Like, everybody wants a bat, right? I'll tell you right now, I want more pitching. I want to be the best defensive team in all of baseball.
I know you do.
Yeah, like, I want to build our identity off of what Henry Davis did, right? He won more games. He had a great ERA. He didn't hit.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I want to believe that he's going to do better. I want to believe that York, giving an opportunity, is going to do better. I want to believe Kutch is going to level up. Ryan Reynolds is going to be better. And the biggest one for me and you is Oneil Cruz. If that man just shows up and he's a little bit more than half of what he can be, we're a different team. So I'm going to open that up. I'll let you have first dibs. And if we guess the same people, we guess the same people.
Okay, biggest disappointment is Oneil Cruz for me. It's inconceivable to me how he could have an OPS under 700 on the season, given his physical abilities. We always call him a 1 of 1, right? I mean, it's just insane to me, the way the second half went for him. But look, if he ever can put it together, even like you said, if he can get to half of his potential, then we're doing pretty darn good. I mean, he struggled in the outfield at times, but he actually, if you look at the numbers, he played okay. He played pretty well at times, and he if he can kind of you forget that he's learning on the fly in the big leagues to play center field. He didn't have the luxury that I or any other outfielder had to make his mistakes down in A ball when nobody was watching. It's all on TV. Everybody's got the binoculars watching him, and he's going to make those mistakes. Now, let's get those mistakes out of the way and let's not repeat them. But I mean, he's the wild card for me going into next year, as far as he can be a guy that can carry a team and take some weight off of the shoulders of a guy like Brian Reynolds, who I feel like had the weight of the world on him this year. I think that kind of contributed to some of the woes we saw him have at times, where it just seemed like if he wasn't hitting, there was nothing going on. And that's a big weight to carry, even for a guy that is a veteran and that can hit, that we know can hit. But I'll move on to my
Before you do, show off a little bit of that baseball mind, and what do you see changing for Oneil Cruz? In the sense of, like, the dude just moved to the outfield, so you have to take that in consideration.
Sure.
He genuinely, and I'm going to say this to the rooftops, genuinely cares as much as anybody on that team. I know sometimes it looks like he doesn't, but I've never been 6'7" and can run like a gazelle. So the reality of it is, this guy cares. He wants to be great, and I think that was his biggest demise this year, is that he wanted to be great, and it was a press to me. It was a press all year long of trying to be great instead of just being who you are. So that's just a overarching picture for me, Press. But, like, what'd you see? Because the guy did get better in the outfield, but he took a huge step backwards offensively.
Yeah, at the plate, he is a guy that I feel like once he started getting pitched to, inevitably, just because of his stature, he's going to get pitched to backwards, meaning a lot of off-speed pitches early, sometimes fastballs late. I feel like he didn't know what was happening to him and never really got that calibrated in, what type of approach he wanted to use. It almost looked like he was guessing a lot of times at the plate. We saw him take a lot of strike threes on fastballs late in counts. And just, he looked tight at the plate. He looked like he was uneasy. He looked like he was worried's not a good word, but anxious, in a really bad way of being anxious, knowing that, he just come off that amazing home run derby during the All-Star break. And we're thinking, this is going to kickstart him and get him to finish out an amazing second half, is what we were anticipating. And the absolute opposite happened. So I think he needs to, kind of like you said, try to do less. Sometimes when you try to do too much and try to press and try too hard, things just don't work out. When you try to make things happen, I think he needs to let the game come to him and let his talents play out. And I think that encompasses the plate and in the field. I mean, we saw him get a little more vocal in the outfield, which is something that's a growth point in the outfield and center field. If you're not communicating with the other outfielders, then there's going to be problems. We saw some miscommunications early on, and all that kind of settled down a little bit, but being able to be engaged and loud, I think sometimes he seemed like maybe he wasn't ready at times in the outfield. It's a boring place at times, but there's always something to do, and he's learning that, and being able to focus in, focus out, focus in, focus out is a skill, and it's something that has to happen. There's no one around you. It feels like you're just out on an island out there, and the ball is not going to get hit to you. And right when you feel like the ball is not going to get hit to you, that's exactly when the ball gets hit to you. But it's an experience thing. I'm more concerned about him at the plate than I am in the outfield right now, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, me too. Well said. And my biggest disappointment on the year is Colin Holderman, and Key Brian Hayes. I can't not say that, because I think that one's going to hurt in the long run, in a really bad way. And the reason why I say that is because he was the first guy. He's the first guy they took the risk on. They signed $80 million, Gold Glove season, comes back. He's probably going to win another Gold Glove, if not a Platinum Glove. And he's going to be right down the road, 4.5 hours away. I just drove it. And that ballpark's going to make him look a lot different immediately. It did immediately. And he genuinely seems like a different person. So my biggest disappointment is that didn't come to light for us. And I'm really scared what it could be moving forward. And then Holderman, all the stuff that we were able to do for so many guys, that's why he's the biggest disappointment for me, because he's a great human being. He genuinely cares. His stuff is legit. I think his sequencing was off. I think his pitch priorities were off at times. I don't think he had a great identity of who he was. And that's not something that a lot of dudes on that team have a problem with. So that was very interesting to me. So that was, two of the bigger disappointments. I could throw Bednar in there, but I'm not going to, because that's something that I could talk about for hours on end.
Yeah.
But those two guys, because I don't know if Holderman will be back. He'll be arbitration guy. I hope they do bring him back. I think he's got something to prove here, and I hope they do it in a friendly way, that he wants to come back. The reality of it is he probably wants to go and get a fresh start, get a new uniform on. It'll probably work out, because that's usually how it works, as we know. So those are my two guys. Biggest disappointment, obviously Cruz is number one, because he held up that position. I also could throw out Jack Sawinski, but I don't think that's all him. I think you're a product of your environment and the playing time you get. And I don't think he got fair shake. So I don't even want to bring him into that conversation, but I know a lot of fans want to.
The scary thing about all four of those guys is that it's in there. It's in there. They have it in there.
And it's been seen before. Yeah.
It has been seen. So the scary thing about, like you said, Ke'Bryan and Holderman, I could see Holderman going somewhere else and shining in the bullpen. I mean, his stuff is legit. I mean, he's upper 90s. He's got that slider, and sometimes he get hit, and I'm just like, I don't know how they're hitting this so consistently. I'm like, is he the most unlucky person I've ever seen? Because this stuff's good. I mean, there's no.
He had some weird numbers, but like the reality of it is, it was the sequencing for me, because a lot of his damage was done with 2 strikes and with 2 outs. So that just means like 1 pitch, which obviously we always talk about your 1 pitch away, but like literally that dude for the first 2 months of the season was 1 pitch away. I mean, over and over again, and it just didn't work. Didn't work out. So, all right, now biggest surprise or biggest, bonus on the year, and I think I know exactly who you're going to say here.
I don't know if you do or not. We'll see. I got Jared Triolo as my biggest.
Oh, got
bonus.
me! I did not see that.
I mean, we know he can pick it with a glove. That's not a secret, and that's a constant with him. But what he did in the last couple months after the deadline, when he got consistent playing time, I know that sounds like a theme, right? Get these guys consistent playing time, knowing
he's played well every time he's had it, though. He's played well every time he's had it. He has.
So I'll be interested to see how this maybe changes what they had perceived his role to be at one point going into next year to what it's actually going to be next year. And I think him raising his level of play is huge for the team if it continues. I mean, I'm not trying to take anything away from what he did to finish up the season, but it's something that we want to see happen for longer stints of time. And it was really good to see. I think he made a physical adjustment as well, which lends me to believe this could be something that we'll continue to see from him. I mean, we saw him in the leadoff spot and had a lot of success in the leadoff spot stole some bases, good base runner, good fielder. If his hitting can just be, average, I mean, he's a very big asset and a guy that you could put out there to play regularly as opposed to just that utility guy that plays every so often. So I was really happy for him to see him kind of get back to form. But like we said before, I mean, there was a time when it was almost like, hey, Jared, can you give me a thumbs up from the dugout? Are you okay down there? I haven't seen you in like 2 weeks. You know what I mean? So until he finally got that time is when we really started to see him shine and get into a groove and play shortstop. I mean, he played well at short. So third base, we got a lot of moving pieces in the infield and a lot of guys that could play in a lot of different spots.
So I thought you were going to pick Horwitz.
I think he was in there for sure.
Yeah, I know. I'm going to throw out a complete wrinkle that you don't see coming, unless you want to take a crack at who I'm going to say. Go for it.
I think I'm going to go with Mike Burrows.
No, Connor Griffin. Our opening day shortstop in my mind going into next year.
Okay.
I got to see Konnor at 17 with USA Baseball. You could see the ability. You could see how athletic he was. But you could also see like, hey, this could be, some time. I did not see what we saw this year coming. I take a lot of pride in having a pretty good understanding of evaluation. I didn't know him well enough. He wasn't on my team. I coached against him. So I didn't know him personally well enough to know the makeup and the character and the family that really, in my mind, catapulted this forward so fast. But this guy's a superstar. He's going to be not just knocking, he's going to kick the door down in spring training. And I don't know how they're going to keep him off the team. If they're saying they want to win, this dude's a winner. He won in Bradenton. He won in Greensboro. And then he went to Altoona. And guess what? They all got better, and you got to watch that. So he's my holy shnikes. He's your Bobby Witt Jr. He's your Mookie Betts. He's the guy that we've needed on the offensive side. He's a line drive guy, so it's going to play at PNC Park. He's got opposite field power, which is going to play at PNC Park. But I think the craziest part for me is how good he is defensively at shortstop. No one, and I don't care what anybody says, because Jack Wilson agrees, there's nobody that could have seen that coming. The easiest thing to do is throw that kid in center field and let him go, because he was already elite. He would have been in the Gold Glove talks immediately, even out of high school, going to the outfield. But he's going to be a Gold Glove possible candidate at shortstop. So that's the biggest surprise for me. I did not see it happening that fast. I knew that was the ceiling. I know what he's capable of, and we haven't even seen that because the power hasn't shown up yet. But what we saw is outright crazy. There's 4 guys that have ever played at 3 levels at that age and put up anything like that. Ronald Acuna Jr., Ken Griffey Jr., and Alex Rodriguez. I'm going to name one more, Andrew Jones. That's it.
Your company. Yeah.
That's it.
And here's the thing is that nobody
was better
saw
than
this
2
coming,
of them.
like you said. Right. And this wasn't seen coming. Otherwise, he would have been drafted number 1 overall in the draft and not fallen to the Pirates at, was it 8 or 9 or something like that?
Yeah, exactly.
But just no fear, I think is one of the main things I noticed from him. He's a terror on the base pass. I know we talk about the stolen bases, but man, he runs really hard on the bases and is very aggressive, very sure of himself. He's going to absolutely tear the base pass apart in Major League Baseball. And I think that's another thing that this team needs is some aggressiveness on the stolen base side, which I know they have some bodies that can get it done. You look at Cruz, but imagine him up the middle, Connor Griffin to Cruz, just the physical stature and ability. And I think you're exactly right. I think he's going to make it very tough on the Pirates in spring training to decide, what do we do with him? He's so talented that I don't know how you could even suspect he would fail, honestly.
Yeah. Last thing before we jump off your press, talk about
Mhm.
how he made Tamar so much better. And I say this because when you put guys like him out in front and let them go, right? They're a unicorn. Well, everybody on the planet wants to chase the unicorn, right? But when you've been a unicorn in Tamar and Cruz, right? You put
Yep.
that guy in the middle of that lineup and you watch Tamar level up like he did in Double A, and I want you to speak to that. And then you watch Cruz level up because it'll all of a sudden become kind of what we saw with Bubba and Skeens. I'm going to strike out more guys until I get there. And that banter back and forth, that's what we want.
We do. And it was, I got to see it, like you said, and I was talking with the play-by-play in Altoona, John Moses, and he was telling me that he's like, I think Tamar's a little upset that he didn't go to the Futures game. I'm like, good. Like I want that. And you have Esmeralyn Valdez as well, who came up before Konnor to Double A, who had a great season. Don't want to discount what he's done this year either, but then Konnor came up, and then all of a sudden it started to seem like Konnor would steal. Then you see Tamar get on, who had a good year on the bases, regardless, and he's looking to steal every time he gets on. It was almost like, all right, we doing this? Yeah, we're doing it. All right, I'm going to get on, and I'm going to go, and I'm going to drive runs in. I'm going to have tough at bats, and like you said, if you're always the guy, it feels like you need somebody to push you. Sometimes it's hard to run a race out front without that guy next to you, making you push to limits you didn't know that you had. And I think that's something that we saw with Tamar and finished out that season, or this past season, really well. And all those guys meshed, and it's a thing to win as a group. And I think this could be one of those groups that kind of wins together and then brings that winning mentality up to Pittsburgh.
So first I want to thank you, Press. I love talking ball with you. You know that. We go way back. We're great friends. We're like family. I want to have you back on really soon and do a deep dive in the outfield, what could be, what was, what is, and what the future holds. But I want to do something real quick, and you can give me your final thought right after this.
Okay.
I want everybody out there to think about this. Andrew McCutchen is about to finish up about 2 decades of baseball. The heir to the throne is Konnor Griffin. If we can't see why it is important to have those two guys on the same team starting the year, if all things goes right, because if Konnor comes in and does his thing, I know Kutch, I know how hungry he is, I know what he wants to walk away from, then we're nuts. We're nuts as a community. Yeah. We're nuts as a fan base. We're nuts in general, because you're talking about giving like the absolute keys to the city to this young kid, but he doesn't have to take it on by himself because there's an aura of greatness around him in Kutch. Maybe not the same aura he had in 13 and 14, but you tell me that a young buck with that type of ability, and people making comparisons to, the last guy that was here was Andrew McCutchen. The last person to do this as a rookie was Andrew McCutchen. The last person to do this was Andrew McCutchen. You tell me that man's not going to get youth back in him. It's going to flood through his veins. They'll probably be best buddies because they come from a similar background, right? Small town in the country backwoods with families that love him and that made him invincible. So I'm going to throw that out there, leave that out in the ether. That's why you bring back a guy that should have a statue after this winning season next year, and those two are hugging, right? Because then you have Kutch for life. And that's more important than anything else in my mind.
Yeah, and think about like how, you have an older dog, right? And you introduce a puppy and you bring life back into the older dog. That's kind of a similar thing. I'm not comparing Kutch to an old dog. in any fashion. But I'm trying to think of other examples of where this may have played out. Maybe Chipper and Freddie Freeman, maybe somewhere in that. I don't know if that's a bad comparison. But
what about Pujols going back to the Cardinals? Is a great example.
There you go.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. So there's so much value in guys like Kutch being around and kind of shepherding these young guys, especially if you're Konnor. Like a lot of times you don't have a guy that can relate to what you're going through because you're at that upper echelon of prospect. There's not many people that have been at that point and with that amount of expectations. And Kutch is one of those guys that he can and talk to and help him handle things and tell him, how did you go about this? How did you prepare? I mean, there's nobody better to ask in that clubhouse of how to be a major leaguer and to be a huge prospect and to almost exceed what the expectations were for you, even when those expectations were sky high. We forget that we've seen pressure bring down guys whose expectations were just so great that they didn't know how to handle it. So I would love to see that dynamic play out in 2026 between those two guys, because it can only help both of them. There's no scenario where just one guy is going to take the fruit of this relationship. So, man, I just hope Konnor's up there early on to see it happen, like you said. But
he will.
We got a ways to go, a couple things to shake out before we can see that. But hopefully those things come to fruition for us.
Absolutely. Thank you for listening to Bucks Bounty. This was an awesome episode. The Bucks are coming. The Bucks are coming. So you better watch out. The bounty is big and we are coming.